Hello, hello.
Uh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. 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 Let's say, okay. Combining SAS datasets is one of the, important topic in SAS. So as an analyst, you'll be working on multiple files, and you'll be creating a summarized files for your analysis. So for your analysis, majority of the times you combine various files and create a summarized output file, and you start doing reporting and analysis on on that final output file. Let's say you're working in a credit card department and credit card area, and you let's say you have three different tables. One is credit card account underscore details, in which you have credit card account number, and your demographic details like your name, demographic details like your name, age, where place where you're living, some related to your demographic details. Demographic details, for example, you have name, age, all those things. Let's say there is a table called credit card underscore transactions information, transactions underscore data. So all the transactions made by each customer. So you'll have credit card account number, and you have like transaction date, transaction amount, something like this. You might have a variable something like this. So there is one more table called credit card underscore payment details, payment details. Okay. Okay, credit card underscore payment details. So in which you have the payments information, like the guys who has already used their credit card, they need to pay, right? So let's say in the credit card CC underscore payment underscore details, you have credit card account number, as well as amount paid, balance to be paid, balance to be paid, something. You have something, some information like this. Now, if I ask you the total number of transactions made by each customer uh, on so and so month. Let's say, for example, I want in my output, I want credit card account number. I have credit card account number. I want credit card account number, and I want his name. I want what type of customer he is, like whether, let's say, is a privileged customer or a preferred customer or a retail customer. Let's say you have that information here in uh, credit card account details. Let's say you have he's a preferred customer, for example, and here I want the total number of transactions. So I'll take, based on this transaction, from this transaction data, I'll get the total number of transactions. I'll get the total number of transactions from the transaction data. Okay, so number of transactions. Okay, and let's say I want whether he has paid amount or not, or what is the balance amount that he needs to pay. Let's say I want that field as well. This is what I want in my final output. Let's say these are the fields which you want in your final output. So what you try to do, you have to read some part of the data from one table, and some part of the data from another table, and some part of the data from another table. So using data, so you have to combine you have to combine your all SAS data sets in order to get this result. Not to get this result, I mean, you have to get all these fields in the final data set or in the final output data set, you need to combine all these fields. Or let's say you're working in a campaign team, you're working in a campaign management team. Okay, let's say you have targeted some thousand customers. Let's say you have targeted 1,000 customers. When you say 1,000 customers, let's say you have targeted through either direct mail or email. So what you said, let's say the offer is, if you open an account with us, if you open a savings account with us, savings account, then we will deposit some $1,000 in your account. Let's say if you open a savings account and maintain a balance of some $25,000 in your account, then we will deposit some $1,000 in your account. This is the promo which you have given, or this is the offer which you have given to these customers. Okay. So you have targeted through which channel? Direct mail. When I say direct mail, you simply send the postcard. When you say email, just an email. Now, all the list of the customers you have in, there is a, let's say you have a table called uh, list file. So in list file, you'll have generally, you'll have campaign name, you'll have campaign name and channel through which you have contacted. So channel information, and you have like a campaign tracking date. You'll have campaign track date, or you can say start date, campaign start date. So when you say campaign start date, when was the campaign rolled out, and the campaign end date, campaign end date. So when the campaign is going to end, and campaign tracking date. Campaign tracking date is nothing but from which date you wanted to track your responses. Okay. So you will have all the information, and what is the income level of that group, what is the FICO score of that group. So we have a lot of information. So this is called list file. List file is nothing but list of the customers to whom for whom you have targeted. That list will be there in list file. In list file table, let's say you have all the campaigns information, not only one single campaign, you'll have all the campaigns information, and you'll identify the campaign. You will distinguish the campaign based on campaign ID. For each campaign, you will have an ID. Okay. Uh, Now, let's say you have rolled out this campaign on 1st July 2016, and the campaign end period is, let's say, 20th July 2016. So whoever responds to this campaign in between these two dates, we will give an offer. We will deposit $1,000 in their account. If they, for that, the condition is they need to open a savings account and they need to maintain a minimum balance of $25,000. So then we will deposit some $1,000. So some guys might respond, right? So a few customers will respond for this. So all the responses, whatever responses that we are getting, that will be saved in a different table, responses table. In the responses, you'll have like campaign ID, and you have the response. For responses, you have which customer has responded. So in the list file, you will have some ID to identify a customer. You will have some ID to identify a customer as well. So here as well, you will get some customer ID, and you will have the responses. So now if I want to find, you will have responses information, and also for which product he has responded. Let's say you have targeted savings account, but he might open a different account. Maybe he is not interested in savings account, he is interested with some other product, and he might have responded to other product. So here I'll have all that information, like what is the campaign ID, who responded, and for which product he responded. So all that information I'll be having in response table. Now if I ask you, I want the list of all the customers who have responded. list of all the customers who have responded. So I have to join these two tables, and I have to join these two tables, and I need to get that information. So as an analyst in real time, you'll be working a lot on combining SAS data sets. You combine the files and you create a summary files for your reporting and analysis. So So combining SAS datasets is of two types. You can combine SAS datasets vertically, or you can combine SAS datasets horizontally, depending on the requirement. Depending on the requirement, you can combine datasets vertically. You can combine SAS datasets horizontally, depending on the requirement. For let's say, for example, I have a data something like this. Like let's say you have student one input. Let's say name of the student and marks obtained in physics. Let's say for example, so I have some student name A from 78, student name B from 89, student name C 45. Now let's say you have one more, let's say this is subject one. You have one more data set, and this you have marks related to maths. Okay, now if I want to, what I want is, I want in my output I want name, marks obtained in physics, and marks obtained in maths. So how, when in this case, we have to combine SAS datasets horizontally. So one after the other. So our output should be, we need to get output in this fashion. So we need to get output in this fashion. So we have to combine datasets horizontally. We have to combine datasets horizontally. Let's say you have, for example, you have students data of, let's say, students of sixth standard in one data set, and in the same way seventh standard in one data set, seventh standard, let's say you have in the same way 8th standard, ninth standard, 10th standard. So now if I want to consolidate all the, I mean, if I want to create a file with the name students, and I want in that data set all the list of all the students details, so in such cases you have to combine one below the other vertically, one below the other. So I simply want the list of all the students. If you want list of all the students, you should not combine horizontally, you have to combine vertically. Okay, so combining SAS datasets, you can combine SAS datasets. You can combine SAS datasets either vertically or horizontally. We'll see all these scenarios uh, now. Okay, let's say you are working in an organization in which you have a lot of departments. Let's say you're working in an organization and you have a lot of departments. You have sales department, customer support department, security department, accounting department, shipping department, research department. Okay, sales, customer support, security, accounting, shipping, and research. Now if you look at here, uh, these are the fields, these are the variables present in each data set. So in coming to, let's say, sales department, in sales department we have employee ID variable, name variable, hire date variable, salary variable, home phone variable. These are the variables which are available in sales. And in customer support data set you have employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone. And these are the properties, employee ID is of character data type, and the length for employee ID is 9, and the name is a character data type, and the length is 19. Hire date, is a numeric variable by default, and the format is date 9 format. the hire date format. The dates are stored in date line format in sales as well as customer support. And coming to salary, there is no format for sales as well as customer support. When I say no format for salary, it means there are no commas or dollars in the value. And coming to home phone, phone number is defined as a character data type and the length is 8. So these are the properties of these two departments. Now, in similar fashion, we have security. There is a department called security. You have employee ID, employee name, hire date, and salary information. But we don't have home phone data available in this security. But we have an additional variable, gender. We have an additional variable, gender, in this uh, what is this? This security department. And in the same way, there is an accounting data set in which we have employee ID, but employee ID is defined as numeric data type. Employee ID is defined as numeric data type. Okay, we have one, and rest all other properties are same. And shipping department, other properties are same, but hire date is, the format for date is different. Okay, the formats are different in this data set. And coming to research department, everything is same, but the length is more when compared to the previous data sets. The length, if you look at the length here, it's 27. Now here my intention is I want to combine data sets and see how SAS is behaving when properties are different, when formats are different, when lengths are different, when data types are different, when some of the variables are available and some variables are not available, how SAS behaves when you are combining data sets. We'll see all those scenarios. Okay. Now let's say, let me quickly pull the information. Okay. So any questions so far? Okay. So I'm creating first sales department employee details. I'm creating a data set. So in sales department, I have total 5 observations. So the employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone. So I have total 5 observations, and these are the variables: employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone. And let me go to work library. Right, quickly click on view columns. See the properties. As I told you here, employee ID is defined as character and the length is 9, and name is defined as character. When text is nothing but character, 19, and date 9, it's a numeric and the length is 8. So, and for salary there is no in format and format here mentioned. It means there are no, what does it mean? It doesn't have any commas. It doesn't have any commas. When there are no formats, it means it doesn't include any dollar sign or commas in salary. And in the same way, you have home phone, which is defined as character. Okay. Now let me go to one more. Let me create one more data set. Customer support. Customer support. So now I have customer support data, and this is customer support department employees information. Customer support department employees information. This is sales department employees information. Now what I want to do is I want to combine these two SAS data sets vertically. I want to combine these two SAS data sets vertically. When I say vertically, one below the other. So combining SAS data sets one below the other. So what do you mean by, let me show you in Excel. So in sales department, we have 5 In sales department we have 5 records, right? We have these 5 records in sales department. This is sales department employees information, and in the same way, this data is related to customer support. This data is related to customer support. So in my final output, I need to get this. I need to get this output. I need to get this output. So what we are trying to do here, we are trying to combine the observations. We are trying to combine the observations, one below the other. So the first 5 records, these are the records which belongs to sales department, and these 5 records belongs to customer support department details. So these 5 records, sales department employees information, and these 5 records, say customer support department employees. Now I want to combine all those, and I wanted to create a final output. Okay. So in such scenarios, how do you read a data from input data set? Using which statement you use? Set statement, right? Using set statement, we read the data. We read the data from already existing SAS data sets. Same thing, the same set statement we'll use, but earlier we used to mention only one SAS data set in set statement, but now we need to mention 2 data set names. So set statement is used to read the data from the input SAS data sets. Earlier we used to say set statement is used to read the data from the input data set. Now we can say input data, not input data, input data sets. Even though you have multiple SAS data sets, we can read all those information, all the observations from multiple SAS data sets using set statements. And this concept is called concatenating. Concatenating. Basically, concatenating means combining 2 or more SAS data sets, one after the other, into a single SAS data set. This is called concatenating. So what we are trying to do here, here we have 2 department informations, right? Here we have 2 department informations. So we read 5 observations from this sales and 5 observations from this customer support, and we combined one below the other. First it will read the first 5 records from the first input data set you mentioned in the set statement, followed by second input data set you mentioned in the set statement. Okay. So let me execute this program. So in the set statement, you need to write all the input data set names. Okay. Now let me execute this. So now I'll have total 10 records in the output. Now see the order. This is the first department. So what is the last? You can see the order. So Martin is the first record. Martin, and here the first record in customer support is J. Here Martin and J. And the order, if you can see this order, if you can see this name, Andrew, Jensen, okay, Mary, Andrew, Jensen. So the order, it will follow the same. What it does is concatenation. First it reads the observations from the first data set, followed by observations from the second data set, and it will simply add it and create a new file. So it's a simple task, not a problem. Here you can, it's a simple, very simple task. Simply in set statement you need to mention the input data set names. Now let's say you have one more data set called security. You have a data set called security. Now if you observe this, what is the difference between the previous data sets earned? See, some of the variables are matching and some variables are not matching. I mean, you have employee ID in both the data sets, name you have in both the data sets, you have hire date in both the data sets, and you have salary in both the data sets. You don't have in the previous data sets you have home phone, and in this data set, in the current data set security department employees, you have an additional variable called gender, which is not available in the previous SAS data sets. Now let's combine these 3 data sets and see how the results are coming. Now let's combine these 3 data sets: sales, customer support, and security. Let's combine these three. Observe the output. Do we have gender information for in the first for sales employees and customer support? We don't have, right? So that's the reason it's showing as blank. If the data is available, then it will populate, I mean, it will show up that data. If data is not available, it will represent with a blank space. Since it's a character data type, character missing values are always represented with a blank space, and numeric missing values are always represented with a period symbol. Okay, and home phone. Home phone, since phone numbers are not available for security department, so we don't have that information here available. But why? How did it follow this order? Why we got at last gender? Why not home phone? So how SAS decides this order of variables in the output or in the final output data set? In the final data set, how SAS determines this order of variables? So how it determines is, since in the set statement you have written sales, customer support, and security. So how SAS, what SAS does is, when it has set sales, customer support, and security. So what SAS does is, first, what is the first input data set? First input data set is sales. So it will first scan the metadata of sales. It will first scan the metadata of sales. When I say metadata, all the attributes. It will check all the attributes. So what all you have in? So uh, you have employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone in sales. And also it will check for the properties as well. I mean, when you say properties, what all the properties it has, it will pick all the properties. It will pick all the properties as well, and it will assign in this way. So this is the desired date. So this is how it creates a table. Okay, it reads the metadata information from the first data set you have mentioned in the set statement. It scans and it will check the attributes and properties of variables. Next, it will scan the metadata of customer support. It will check whether same variables are present or any other variables, any new variables are there in the second input data set. If no variables are present in the second input data set, I mean, if all the variables are same, then it doesn't do anything. If any new variables it found, then it will add at the end. Okay, so in customer support, all the variables are same, similar to sales. Now it will go to the security, the third input data set. Again, it will scan the metadata and it will check whether there are any new variables. So it found a new variable called gender, so it will place here. Okay, and the gender, the data type is character, and the length is 1. Okay, now in the final output we will have the variables information in this order: employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone, and gender. And the properties also will be same like this. Properties also will be in this. In the first data set, whatever properties it took, the same properties will be present. I mean, the same properties will be there in the output data set as well. Okay, so any questions so far? Anyone, any questions? Okay, there are no questions. I'll just move to the next. Now there is one more variable called accounting. Let me execute accounting. So there is a variable called sorry, a department called accounting department employees. See, by looking at the output, can you make out which data type it is? Employee ID is which data type? I mean, what is the data type of employee ID? By looking at this output, can you make out? See, can you see this
No,
number
it,
and this number? It started from here, it started from left hand side, but this is starting from right hand side. I mean, you have some space between this. By looking at this data, you can make it out, right? See, in Excel, let's say here 1 2 3, we put it as a number. Here same I'll write 1 2 3. I'll convert into text. See, if it is a text data, it will always start from left to right. If it is a numeric data, it will always start from right to left. So by looking at the data itself, you can make it out here. So it is defined as numeric data type, and in the previous data sets, the employee ID is defined as numeric data type. So now I want to combine these four data sets. Sales, customer support, security, and accounting. Sales, customer support, security, and accounting. Now let me combine these four, and if you go to log, it won't combine. Actually, it will throw an error saying that variable employee ID has been defined as both character and numeric. Employee ID is defined as both character and numeric. Okay. So what you have to do? So if the properties, if the data types are not same, then you cannot combine. If the data types are not same, you cannot combine these as datasets vertically. So it will throw an error in the log saying that the same variable employee ID has been defined as both character and numeric. So there are two functions. Maybe I have not explained. I think I forgot. I thought I would cover for some reason. Okay. So there are two data types. Two more functions. Those are conversion functions. Okay. Okay. There are two conversion. There are two functions. Uh, Conversion functions. One is input function. The other one is put function. Input function and put function. So if you have to, maybe few guys might be aware of casting in your data, maybe in SQL or something. So you have to convert now if you want to convert a character variable into a numeric variable, for that you have a function called input. And if you want to convert a numeric variable into character variable, then you can convert that into character variable. So actually, in real time you come across with such scenarios. Let's like the same scenario, we just discussed. Let's say you wanted to combine these four data sets. Now you cannot combine, since it is defined as numeric in one data set. In another data set it's defined as character. Now I have to convert this numeric variable in accounting data set into character, or you have to convert all these variables information in these three data sets in numeric. So it's either or the other. So based on your need. So it's, instead of converting all these into numeric, it's better to convert this numeric variable into character. So if you let me explain, let me spend some time on input and put functions. Maybe it will take some 10 minutes, but let me spend this. So let's say you have employee ID, and here in this example, in this EMP I've created, it is defined as numeric. It is defined as numeric variable. Okay, it is defined as numeric variable. Okay. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to convert this numeric into character. I want to convert numeric into character. If you want to convert a numeric variable into a character variable, you have to use put function. Okay, the syntax for that put function is, let me remove this. Okay. So I'm reading the data from EMP. EMP is my input data set. So in set I have written EMP, and in the output data set EMP1. And see here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convert my numeric variable employee ID into character. So the syntax for that one is put followed by in the to the put function, I need to pass the arguments. The first argument is uh, input variable, on which variable you wanted to, or of which variable you wanted to convert into character. You have to mention that, followed by format, or followed by format type. When I say format type here, the length of this employee ID after converting into character, it should be 3. So I have to mention 3 dot. So the length after converting this employee ID, because initial after converting this employee ID, this numeric variable into character, the length I need to take is 3. So I have given 3 dot. So even though you give 8, not a problem, but minimum it is here, the length, the width is 3. So I have given 3 dot. Now let me execute this. If I execute this, see, there are 3 observations and all, everything is fine. Let me quickly go to EMP1. See here, it created. Here I have given EMP ID, and here I have given EMP underscore ID. Here I have mentioned EMP ID, here underscore I have mentioned EMP ID. Now, so that's the reason we got two variables. This is our source variable and this is our output new variable which we created. Now you can look at here only you can make it out the difference. So one is the numeric, the other one is character. Or else right click on the data set, click on view columns, you'll be able to see. So EMP ID, this is the variable which is already existing in SAS dataset, and this is the variable which is the new variable which we calculated. So I just want to I want to bring to your notice one very important point in case of conversion functions. If you remember here earlier, when we used uppercase functions, lowercase functions, scan functions and all, source variable name and target variable name, or input variable name and output variable name, if these two are same, what will happen? If source variable and target variable, if both are same, what will happen?
Gets replaced.
It just replaces, right? It will override. But conversion functions will not work like that. In case of conversion functions, important point you need to remember here is the source variable name and target variable name cannot be same. In case of conversion functions, source variable name and target variable name cannot be same. SAS won't accept. Okay. So what you have to do is, I have mentioned at the end that point. I think somewhere I have written. Okay, let's see. Okay. So source variable name and target variable name cannot be same in case of conversion functions. So now what happened here? So now which ID we will be using for our concatenating? We combining. Let's say you want to drop the previous variable which is already existing. Let's say you wanted to drop it and you wanted to rename. You wanted to rename the new calculated variable EMP ID to EMP ID. Why we have to do that? Because in all the other data sets the name is employee ID. So you have to make sure the names are also same. You have to make sure the names are also same. So what you can do here is, you can drop the existing variable. Drop equals using drop option, and there is an existing variable, right? So use that. See, I'm using in the output. I'm placing this drop option after the output dataset name, not after the input dataset name. If I write here, it won't calculate. It will not execute this function. So after applying this function, finally when writing into this output dataset, I'm dropping. And in the same way, we have rename option. Rename equals to which variable you wanted to rename. I wanted to rename this variable. Rename equals to EMPID to EMPID. So I'm dropping a variable called EMPID. In this, we have EMPID, right? So it will drop. So it will drop this variable EMPID, and it will rename this EMPID, EMP underscore ID to EMPID. Now let me close this. Now you will have only one variable, and which is of character data type.
Ram, quick question.
Yes.
For example, in massive, from ERP data dumps and stuff, where we cannot actually change the variable, like EMP ID has to remain EMP ID, yet has to change. So in such situations, what would you do?
No, if you can, this concept will not work. Then in such scenarios, you have to rename, or else what you can do is, uh, you first, rename it and combine it. See, at the end of the day, let me talk about this. So in your case, let's say for example, you have name, like let's say you have e name, e underscore name, and in let's say there is a data set called name. So here you have, let's say, Rajesh, some Kalyan, okay, and in this data, in this field you have, let's say, Raghav, and let's say uh, some Sriram. So which variable you want now? Tell me which variable you want, either ename or name in your final output. Because when you combine, you can have only one name. You cannot have two names after combining data sets. So you need to have only one name. Which name you want? If you want in name or in, see, if you want name, just if you want in the final output as name, then rename this variable. If you want find the final output as ename, rename this variable. Because in X, let's say after combining, you cannot have two variable names, right? There should be only one variable. So which variable you want, accordingly you will be renaming it, right? You understood, Kalyan?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, coming to our scenario. Okay, the same, so existing employee ID variable you should drop, and new variable which you have calculated EMP ID, that should needs to be renamed. Okay, that needs to be renamed. So in our example as well, so you have in our example what we have in first three data sets, it is defined as a character variable. In first three data sets, it is defined employee ID is defined as character variable. In fourth data set, it is defined as numeric. So you have to convert into character, right? So if you want to convert a numeric or a character into numeric, this is a numeric, right? Numeric into character, you have to use put function we just saw. Let's say the reverse one. If you want, if the employee ID is defined as character, and if you want to convert into numeric, then you have to use input function. Input of variable name followed by the width or format type. Okay. Okay. Let me come back here later. Now in this example, so the same thing I've done. I have my information in accounting, see, accounting department. So what I'm trying to do is in accounting department, employee ID is defined as numeric. I want to convert this numeric variable into character. So if you want to convert a numeric variable into character, you have to use put function. So I have used put function, put followed by on which variable you wanted to apply this function and what is the width. The length of the employee ID is 9. The length of the employee ID is 9. See why we have here, if you there is one important point here. See, in all other data sets, it is defined as a 9, the length is 9. But in case of accounting, even though the width of the employee ID is 9, length is default 8. The reason is, you might, I think I have explained this some time back. Still, see, by default, what is the length for a numeric variable? It's 8. Even though for character variable, it's 8. For both character and numeric, if you don't specify the width, the default length, if you don't specify any length, the default length, it will assume it as 8. 8. The default length is 8. And if you define, a numeric variable, if you any numeric variable default length or character variable or numeric variable, the default length is 8, right? And it means when you say 8, one character occupies 1 byte. Here, one character occupies 1 byte. So if you have 8 length, 8 in, if you define a variable as a character, and if you say 19 length, it means it occupies 19 bytes. But in case of number, it is different. 8 byte length number can store maximum of 16 to 17 digits. 8 length byte character numeric variable can store maximum of 16 to 17 digits. Okay, but in case of character variable, 8 byte length string, it stores only 8 characters, not more than that. But the default length in both the cases is 8. The default length in case of, if you don't specify any length, the default length for character variable as well as numeric variable, it is 8. It is 8. But if you, in case of character, it can accept only 8 characters. When you define length as 8, it can accept only 8 characters. 8 characters. But in case of numeric, it accepts 16 to 17 digits, 16 or 17 digits. So that's the reason here, if you look at here, I mean the length is 8, even though in case of accounting, the employee ID is defined as numeric and the length is showing as 8, because even though the width of employee ID is 9, it can accept in a 8 byte 8 bytes. I mean, let's go here. Let's see what is that accounting. So it is 8. It is defined as 8, but if you open the data set and see, the length would be 9. So it can accommodate in a 8 bytes for a numeric variable. It can read maximum of 16 to 17 digits. So that's, for the time being, leave it for that. That's fine, not a problem. Here, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to convert a character variable, a numeric variable, into character, and after converting, what should be the length we are specifying here. Okay, 9 dot. So now I am creating a new derived variable temporary var in, and I am storing the results. So we have to drop the existing employee ID and we have to rename this. We have to rename this temp var to employee ID in order to combine. If the variable is different, again it will throw an error saying that variables are not matching. Variable names are not matching, it will throw an error. Now I created a new data set called new accounting. See, if you look at this new accounting, where we got the employee ID at the end. Employee ID, we got it at the end. It was placed at the end, not in the first place. It was at the end. It was placed at the end place. Why? Because it read all the data from here. So while reading the data from the accounting, you'll have the order will be, while reading the data from, you will have employee ID name. Let's say this is the order while reading. While reading the data from the input data set, let's say this is the order. Now, when it reads this, when it executes this statement, it creates a new variable, right? Temp var. Okay, so it creates at the end. It found a new variable, so you will have in this way. SAS creates at the end one more variable called temp var. Now after that, what we are trying to do, when it is writing that record into output data set, we are dropping the employee ID and we are naming the employee ID, whatever, I mean, this temp var to employee ID. So finally what it does is, it will drop this. It will simply drop this and it will change this temp var to employee ID. Change to employee ID. This is how, and the length you have given is 9, right? So you will get character and 9. This is how it creates a data set. Okay, this is how it creates a data set. Okay, now fine. Now let's we, in the new accounting, we have the data set. We have the new accounting data set we have created, right, in which we converted the numeric into character. Now you can concatenate all those 4. And while concatenating, the order is not important. The variables order is not important. Let's say the first one is name, followed in this data set you have employee ID, name, hire date, salary, and home phone. Maybe in the second data set the order is different. Let's say you have employee ID followed by salary, followed by name, followed by home phone, followed by hire date. That's fine, not a problem. While concatenating, even though the order of variables is different, that's fine, because it will not add based on the order, based on the variable position. It will not add based on the position. It will not combine based on the variable's position, in which it will always combine based on the variable names information. See, in this accounting we have employee ID at the end, that's fine. It is not going to concatenate based on the observations, I mean variable position. I mean, when I say variable position of employee ID is at last in this data set, so it will not combine in that way. It will only match the variable names, and its corresponding data it will pick and it will combine and save it in the final data set. Now let me execute. So we are concatenating, or we are combining four data sets here. Four data sets. Let me execute this. So you'll have 20 records. In each data set you have 5 records. So in total you'll have 20 records. Now let's say there is one more department. I mean, any questions? Anyone? Any questions on this?
Ram?
Yes, Sridham.
Yes, I mean, we separately renamed it. I mean, first we took the accounting table and we renamed it and dropped that employee.
Yes, yes.
We converted that way.
Yes.
But I mean, I mean, I don't want to do it separately. So while combining for the data sets, I want to write it consistently.
Yeah, you have that example. You have that example. We'll see that. Okay. Our next example is, see, we have something called shipping department. So in this shipping department, uh, the difference between the previous, I mean, data sets and this data set is, if you look at the salary, there is a format. There is a comma format in salary, but in the previous data sets there is no format for salary. Okay, there is no format for salary, right? Now, and also if you look at the hire date, the format in the previous data sets is date 9. It's in date 9 format, but here we have it in date 7 format. So I mean, variables, rest all data properties all are same, only the formats are different here. When formats are different, see, character 9, character 19, formats are different. In all the above data sets we have the dates in date 9 format, and in salary we don't have any format. So how SAS behaves, what will be the format in the final output? Because because we cannot apply, or we cannot maintain a multiple formats in a single variable in the output. There cannot be two different formats in the output. You have to maintain a single format in the output. Okay, so if you want to, I mean, how SAS behaves, let's say if you combine these 5 data sets: sales, customer support, security, accounting, and shipping. Let's say you want to combine these 5 data sets. So what you have to do is, so how SAS behaves, let me explain you here. Uh, so let's say in dataset A, salary variable format is comma. You have comma format, and in dataset B you don't have any format. In dataset C you have dollar format. Okay. Now if I combine these 3 data sets one below the other, say let's say set ABC. In the output I'll have comma format. When I combine BCA, B followed by C followed by A, I'll have dollar format. And if I combine CAB, then I'll have dollar format. So if you remember, I explained you in what SAS does is, first it will scan the first data set, it will scan the first data set information, and it will it will create a PDB vector, program data vector, in which it will put all your metadata information as well as the data types information. So it says salary, okay, and data type would be comma, right? The first you have comma. In the set statement you have given a data set. So what is the format for salary? It's comma. So it will retain that. So even though you have any other formats in other data sets, it will ignore. It will not consider those formats. It will always consider the first available format, for salary variable. And when you are coming to BCA, why it is dollar? The reason is in the B dataset you don't have any format. So what is the next available format? It will go to C and it will scan and it will check for the attributes, for the properties. So you have dollar format. So the output will be dollar. And you say set CAB, the first input data set is C. So what is the format that is available? Dollar. So for the entire data it will apply dollar format. That's how it behaves. So coming to dates as well, let's say you have date 9, DDMMY10 dot and date 7. If you say set ABC, all the dates, all the date variables will have all the date variable values. I mean, not all the date variable, like all the values in a date variable will have in date 9 format. And if you say set CBA, C is date 7, so also all the values will be in date 7 format. If you say BCA, all the dates will be in DDMMYY10 dot format. So let me execute and show you here. All these 5 data sets I'm concatenating. See the salary. Earlier we don't have any format. Now we have format because the first available format, it was comma, so it applied comma on all those values. And coming to the department which we just added, the dates are in date 7 format. It's not in date 9. If you observe, dates are in date 7 for only 2 digits of a year you have, but in the output you got 4 digits of a year. Okay, that is how SAS behaves by default. Okay, and if you want to change the formats, yes, you can change it using format statement. Let's say you want to apply a different format, you don't like that format, you can apply permanently. If you apply format statement in dataset, then this in the source dataset itself the data will change. If you apply in PROC print, only at the time of displaying, we can change it. What is the name of this variable? Hire date, right? Let's say your hire date format, hire date. Let's say you want weekday 32. I've changed. I wanted to see in a different format. Okay, I didn't execute. Now here, yes. If you want, you can change the format. If you don't like that format, let's say you want a specific format which you are interested into, then you can change the format. Whichever format you want, you can give it. So whatever format you give it here, that will be changed. So you are interested in, let's say, date 11 dot. You can change it. Or you are interested in some other format, like first you want year, followed by month, followed by date, and you don't want anything. I mean, you don't want any spaces, or you don't want any. I mean, you don't want any spaces. 1990, 8th month, 9th date. So it's up to you. Based on your requirement, you can change the format. Any questions?
Ram,
Yes.
actually, we are combining the two, three different data sets, combination of the one data set. No? I require different database now, like Oracle and MySQL, suppose, for example. That is a different. That is different format. This is different format.
So
Like
you'll
Oracle,
you'll connect to Oracle. and you'll have
Oracle.
yeah, it is a different concept. You'll connect.
Oracle.
See, what you do is
Okay.
you
Okay.
create a name. Let's say you're working with the credit card data, which is there in Oracle database. So you create a library and you specify the path. Like here, you'll be specifying the username, you'll be specifying the password, and you'll specify the schema name, or there will be
Okay.
connection options. Okay, in the same way, let's say your debit card is there. Your debit card information is in SQL Server. Okay, your debit card information is there in SQL Server. So you write here debit. Let's say it's a SQL Server. So SQL Server. Okay, and same thing. And a libraries will be created here. Libraries will be created here, and you can say data. Uh, some final whatever in the set statement you'll write credit dot what is the file. Credit is the library. In this schema, what is the name of the file? Let's say A, and you'll write debit dot B. Okay, so what happens is it creates a library. It creates a library. For example, one second, one minute. What happened? It's not connecting. I have to check why it is not connecting. There's some
Yes,
error.
the same problem my laptop also that one.
Okay, I need to check this because I maybe I'll try it. What we do is I'll show you maybe. For some reason not able to connect to this one. But I have
I think Windows 7 is not connected that one.
no. I worked on this already. It will connect. It should connect. Actually, I already worked on this. For some reason today it is not connecting. Okay, I'll check this. Not a problem. I'll check this. So what we do is once we create this, what will happen is once we execute this statement, it will create a library name called credit, and all the tables which are in this schema, whatever schema you mentioned, all those will be shown in the library called credit. In a library called credit. In the same way, when we execute this statement, what will happen is it will show up all the schemas, all the data, whatever is available in that schema. It will create a library called debit. It will show up there. So you can use library name dot dataset name, library name dot dataset name, and you can combine. Or else, what you can do is you can use SQL and you can use joins concept, or here vertically we are combining, right? So you can use set operators and you can combine. Or simply if you are accessing from multiple sources, you can create libraries as well. But I don't know for some reason why it's not working. It has to work actually. Let's say you want to connect to Oracle. Okay, anyway, I'll look into this. I don't know for some reason why it's not connecting. I'm not sure. I'll look into this and I'll get back to you. I mean, anyway, we'll discuss that concept, how to connect with the databases and pull the data. But to answer your question, yes, we will be using a live name statement. We create a library. Using libraries, we connect to the databases, and once you connect, all the tables which are available in that schema will show up here in the form of data in similar fashion. How this SAS user is there, it will show up in the form of data sets, and you can use those data sets to combine. Okay, Venu?
Okay.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, for some reason, I don't know why this Oracle is not working. I have to look into it. Uh, okay, what is our next? Okay, let's say you have one more department, research. There is a department called research. So in research department, everything is same, but the length is different. The length of the name is different. I mean, it is more than the previous variable. I mean, previous data sets. In this, the length of the name is defined 27. In the previous cases, it is 19. Now, if I concatenate, what it does, let's see. So we have here Christopher, Catherine, Elizabeth, right? Let me concatenate these 6 data sets. Okay, see here, sales, customer support, security, new accounting, shipping, and research. I have given all the 6 data sets, right? Okay, you have 6 data sets I have mentioned. Let me concatenate. See the output. It will concatenate. You will have 30 records, but see the data here. In Catherine, you don't have the entire string. Christopher, you don't have the entire string, and in Elizabeth, you don't have the entire string. What it did, it truncated. Why it truncated? Because in the first data set, what is in the sales, what is the length of the name? It is defined as 19. So while creating this table in the output, you will have 19. You will have 19. So it will truncate. It will truncate if the length is more in one data set and the length of a name is less in one data set. It always depends on the first data set length in the set statement. In the set statement, whatever the input data set you have, the very first input data set, it will pick this length. It will take this length for this output data set. So now what we have to do is we have to explicitly mention length statement. There is a statement called length. You need to register the length. You need to register the length for the variable. So I'm using length statement, length followed by name. So I'm registering the length, and since name is a character variable, I have given dollar. And what is the length you wanted to give it for that? I want 27 because the maximum length in one data set is 27, right? Here it is 27, and in other cases it is 19. So I am registering the length for the name variable. So you can change the length using length statement. Now if you execute, you will get all the data correctly. So Christopher, Catherine, Elizabeth. So now you have the entire string.
Ram,
Yes.
let's say, for example, you do not know the length of the thing. So is there a way of actually searching for the longest name and then setting length of the name to that much?
Write PROC contents. You'll come to know on these 2 data sets. Run PROC contents. Run PROC contents. There it will display the properties, right? So for this data set, it
Yeah.
will display 27. You can
Okay.
simply do that, right?
Okay.
Simply if you run PROC contents, data equals to what is that department? Shipping, I think. Which shipping? The last one, research. Immediately you'll come to know the maximum length and the defined length in that data set. So in the other data set, maybe you might have some 19. So you can, by looking at this result, okay, you can check the properties and you can define the length. Okay. Okay. So if I first give research, will it execute? First I have given, I'm reading my data sets in a reverse order. Earlier it was sales, customer support, security, new accounting, shipping, research. Now I'm reverse order. So first it will take all the properties of research, right? So now you'll get the data correctly only. Elizabeth, Catherine, not a problem. See, it always depends on, in the output data set, the properties will depend on the first input data set in the set statement. If you want to change explicitly, then you have to use length statement, format statement, whatever you want. If you want to explicitly do any manipulations, then you have to use all those statements. Otherwise, in the output data set, the properties will always depend on the first input data set in the set statement. If the formats are not available in the first input data set, then it will move to the next input data set and it will check for the formats. If there are any formats in the second input data set, then it will apply that format. So always SAS will take the first available formats or attributes. Only in case of formats, it will rely on the next input data set if the formats are not there in the first input data set. In case of length, the same thing. In case of data type, everything, it depends on the first input data set. You put it in the set statement. Okay, actually we have seen couple of cases. The first case is when properties are same in all the input data sets. So simply it will add. The second case we have seen what is when some variables are different and some properties of same variables are same. Means we have seen, right, this is the second case. Second case is, yes sir. Some variables are same and some variables are not there and some variables are different. Then in that case, how it concatenated. So that's one case we have seen. The third case, when data types are different, no output, it will throw an error. And fourth case, so you have to use either input or output function. And fourth case, when formats are different, how it behaves, I have explained here. And formats are different. And fifth case, when lengths are different, how it behaves, I just explained you, and you have to use the length statement. And the last case, let's say you have the variables, you have two data sets. In one data set you have EMP ID and the other variable is job code, and in another data set the same information you have employee ID and job code only, but the variable name is different. In one data set it is defined as J code, in another data set it is defined as job code completely, J code and job code. Now if I combine these two data sets, I'll get output in this fashion. See here, this is what I'll get in my output, because job code and J code is different. Job code and J code is different. So job code, it creates, when it reads, let's say you A and B are, these two data sets are A and B. So if I say set A B, first what it will do, it will read all the variables information from A. So it read employee ID, job code. Next it scans the data set B. So it will check again variable name. So in which you have employee ID and J code. So it found a new variable called J code. So it will create a new variable in the output data set and you will have the output. But this is not what we are expecting. This is what we are expecting. This is how we need to get the output. So we need OBS, we need employee ID. OBS anyway it's by default, okay, observation number. So we need employee ID and job code. and in this job code I want assistant manager, team lead, manager and analyst, or it's up to you, either you want J code or job code, it's up to you. Based on that we have to write the code. Now in such scenarios what we have to do is we need to rename the variable, either this or this, either rename the job code to J code or rename J code to job code. It's up to you. Okay, so no need of doing it in a separate data set, simply you can do it here itself. While concatenating you can apply rename function here, rename option here. So I am renaming in this data set. In A we have a variable called J code. I am renaming here itself. Okay, and you can concatenate. So let me execute this. You will get job code and you will get the desired output. But here you have, I have renamed to J code to job code, right? That's the reason I'm getting that. Let's say you want J code in your output, then don't rename this. You want J code, just rename. In this we have job code, just rename to J code. It's up to you what you want. And what you want to see in the final output. So instead of job code I have J code. Simple. So any questions on this concatenating concept? We call this as concatenating. We are basically combining. Concatenating is nothing but joining or combining, right? So we are combining SAS datasets one below the other using concatenating concept. Okay, let me explain. There is one more. There is another way of doing this. You have something called appending as well. You have something called appending. Append. So this is one important concept. You can combine datasets using appending concept as well. So, but there is a small difference here. Let's say there is a master file, there is a data set called master transactions. In master transactions, it will have all the transactions information, all the transactions of customers. So you have customer ID, transaction date and transaction month. So it has, let's say it has all the history data as well. It has all the history data. Let's say in this data set you have data starting from 2010 Jan till date, you have all the data. Let's say you have starting from 2010 till date, you have all the data in this data set. Okay? But this is sample data. I'm not showing all the data, but this is sample. Now you create a monthly file. Every month you create whatever transactions happens, you create in a different file. What you do is at the end of every month you load all your monthly transactions into your master file. So you'll not load the transaction as and when the transaction happens. Let's say on weekly basis or monthly basis or daily basis, you load your data into the master file. So let's say in the all the June transactions, whatever in the June month, whatever transactions has happened, all those transactions information we have in a data set called June transaction. Okay, June transaction. Now what I want to do is I want to add the transactions which are in June, which happened in June month. These three I want to add at the end of this. I want to just append. I want to append. I don't want to create any new data set. I just want to append the transactions happened in the month of June in my master file. So I need to read while appending. You should not read these records again. You just need to read only these three transactions and you need to append at the end here. Okay. So in such scenarios, you have to use append procedure. Let's say we can also achieve that using set statement. Let's say if you write set master transactions and June transactions. Let's say if I write set master transactions and June transactions, and output data set name is also, let's say, master transactions. what will happen in this case? It will read, let's say in this you have 1 million records. It will read all the 1 million records from this, and let's say here you have some 10,000 records. It will read 10,000 records. In the final output you will have 1,010,000 records, right? That should not be the case. You should not read this data because it's static. You have nothing to do with this, and the processing time will increase if you use this code. So here our objective is, I don't want to read any data from the master transaction file. I just need to read the data from June transaction and append into this master transactions file. So if you use set statement, whatever input data set names you mention in the set statement, it will read all the data, and it will take a lot of time because in master transaction file you have history data as well. It will take a lot of time. That should not be the case. You just need to append it. Okay, so in such cases you have proc append. So the syntax for proc append is proc append followed by what is your base file and which data you wanted to append, to your base file. Here my base file is master transaction. So I want to add June transactions into my master file, into my base file or whatever. So simply proc append base equals to master transactions, data equals to June transactions. Now let me execute this. Now go to log. See here, appending work.june underscore transactions to work.master underscore transactions. There were 3 observations read from dataset work.june underscore transaction. It is not talking anything about work.master, saying that it read the data from master underscore transaction. It didn't say anything. It's simply saying there are 3 observations read from the dataset work.june underscore transactions, and 3 observations were added. Now in the final dataset work.master transaction, you have total 9 observations. So if you go here, so there are 6 transactions in the master file. Now you added 3 transactions into the master file, so you have 9 records. Let me print this. So now look at last 3 transactions. June data has been added into the master file. But there are some limitations with this. I'll tell you. Let's say you have July transactions as well. Now let me append. So it appended. Let me print. You will have 11 records now. What happened? I didn't execute this item. Let's see here. There were 2 observations read from work.july transaction. Now you have total 13. Why you have 13? Because I have executed append 2 times. Let me go to master transaction. Okay. Yeah. I have executed 2 times, so it added the July records 2 times. Okay, next, let's say you have August transactions, August month transaction. Starting from August, you found a new variable called vendor. Let's say you found a new variable called vendor, which is not there in master transaction list, master transaction file. Starting from August, you got a new variable vendor in which it is saying this transaction is made against which website. Let's say to which vendor you paid this amount. So you have now let me append. Now I'm trying to append the data. Proc append base equals to master transactions file, data equals to August transaction. Can you tell me what will be the output? If I append, will it append or not? See, I'm executing. Let's go to log. So here, variable vendor was not found on base file, means transactions file. So the variable will not be added to the base file. Okay, no appending done because of anomalies listed above, because of so and so reason. Use force option to append these files. 0 observations were added. It didn't add anything. It didn't add August. Let me open that master transactions. See, there is no August data. It didn't add. Why? Because there are variables which are not found. There are some variables which are not found in the base file. Okay. There are some variables which are not found in the base file. If you use force option, there is an option called force. you can forcefully add it, even though the variables are not matching. If you use append and force option, forcefully it will add. Now let me execute this. Now it will add. Let me go to master transactions. Now see the data. August data is added. But what about the vendor? Vendor information will not be added because that variable is not present in the source file, in the master file. So only it will add matching variables information. So we have customer ID, transaction date, and transaction amount. We have it in. We have only in August month. Starting from August month, we saw a new variable. But in the source file, we don't have that variable, so it won't add anything. But let's say you want to capture that information as well. Then what you have to do? You need to change the structure of dataset, source dataset. You need to change the structure of source dataset. So you want to add, let's say you wanted to create a variable called vendor, in this master transactions. So you can simply use, you can read set master underscore transactions, and I'm using vendor equals to space. I have not given anything. I've simply set vendor equals to space, and I'm defining the length for vendor. So what will happen is it creates a new variable called vendor, and it's a character in nature. Since I have mentioned, I have registered the length vendor and I have defined length as 20. Now let me, and you can also give here, you can give the same name. It will overwrite, or give a different name for the time being to understand. So now I have created one more file, master underscore trans. Let me open this. So you have a vendor column, and the data type of this vendor is character, and the length is 20. The length is, it's a character and it's 20. Now what you can do is you can append. Let's append this August transactions once again. Now open master underscore transaction. So now you have the information. So if any new variables are there in future, and if you want to capture that information as well, first you have to change the structure to your table. You have to add a variable and you have to append. Let's say in September transaction, let's say you don't have, again, that information is not available. Let's say that information is not available in September. Starting from September, let's say you don't have the vendor information. You don't have vendor information, but in the source file we've already modified. We already added a vendor, but you don't have vendor information starting from September. Now if I append, what will happen? Because in base file I have 4 variables, but in the file which I am adding, I have only 3 variables. I don't have vendor information in this, but I have vendor information in my master file. Will it add or not? Will it append or not? It will append. It will append, but it will say that, okay, is it open? Okay, let me close it. Let me go to log. See, appending work.september to work.master underscore transactions, where it didn't throw any error. It just said warning, variable vendor was not found in data file, but 2 observations will be added, but that vendor information it will not capture. Simply it will not capture the vendor information, that's it. If you don't have, see, in base file you can have more number of variables. In the base file you can have more number of variables, but the reverse case it is not possible. Means the variables are more in the data which you are adding, but those variables are not found on base file. That's not possible. But the reverse case, it's fine. So if you want to add forcefully, you can add it using force option. The first case here, the case what we have seen is, see, variables present in base file but not in data file. Then no, variables present in base file, then there won't be any warning, no error warning, simply warning. In our case, variable vendor was not found on data file. It will come and it added correctly. So there won't be any problem, because in the base file we have all the variables all the variables, right? But coming to reverse case, variables not present in base but present in data file, then it's a problem. You have to use source option. Any questions on appending? So in the interview they will ask you these questions like, how do you combine SAS? It's a standard interview question. How do you combine SAS datasets? Or how do you, I mean, see, today we have seen only how to combine datasets vertically, not horizontally. Tomorrow we'll see that concept. Today we have seen only how to combine SAS datasets vertically. So for that we have concatenating concept and appending concept. So depending on the need we use, if you don't want to read data from all the input datasets and you just need to add in the existing SAS dataset, then appending would be the best option. Or if you want to read from both the source files and create a new dataset, then you have to use set statement. And the properties are same. When you are appending, make sure the lengths are same, make sure the data types are same. If the data types lengths are not same, I mean the properties whatever we have seen here, if the properties are not same, then you have to change the properties, I mean, and you need to append. Let's say in master transactions, customer ID is defined as character. In this June transaction, it is defined as numeric, and you cannot add. You have to first modify here, and in such scenarios, you cannot do it in a PROC append procedure. You have to do it separately in a data set, and later on you can add it. You cannot write here rename drop. You cannot do it this here. Okay. But it's best practice to do it in a separate SAS data, I mean separate data set. So based on your need, you'll be using either PROC append or concatenating, which one you have to prefer based on their requirement. Okay, I'm done for the day. If you have any questions, I'll wait for 2 minutes. If anyone has any questions, they can ask. Okay, then if you don't have any questions, okay then, chalo, have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. And we'll meet at 9. The other guys, I mean, we'll meet at 9 o'clock.
Ramesh, link same 7 p.m. 7 a.m.
Sorry?
Link same 7 a.m.
Yeah, 7 a.m. tomorrow. You're talking about tomorrow, right?
Hi, today 9 p.m. 9 a.m.
Yeah, 9 a.m. We'll have 9 a.m. Yeah, at 9 a.m. only we'll have.
Link,
Same link,
yesterday link.
Same link, same link.
Yesterday link.
Same link, the link which I have shared now, just now. I mean, for
Okay,
7 a.m. batch, the same link will continue in the same link. Okay?
Okay.
So we'll start at 9 o'clock.